Hi everybody, I'm Tina Brown, and we have an amazing panel here with these three enormously courageous women who are determined, each in their own way, to keep the world's eyes on Putin's tyrannical onslaught in Ukraine. Sevgil Misayeva is the fearless young editor of Ukraine's independent online newspaper Ukrainska Pravda, which has been a critical source of wartime information for her fellow citizens. And on Thursday, this is really extraordinary, wonderful news, she will get the Committee to Protect Journalists Press Freedom Award. And we should all applaud her for that. Heidi Levine is an award-winning photojournalist who's covered war for 3 decades and who's been on the front lines in Ukraine since the day the war started. You may have seen some of her remarkable images in the Washington Post. And Janine De Giovanni, and my old friend, the lion-hearted former war reporter who's now in Ukraine as co-founder of the Reckoning Project, which is training a team of journalists there to collect evidence of war crimes that would be admissible in international courts. But before we go to them, just a couple of days ago, I had the privilege of talking with Ukrainian First Lady Olena Zelenska, who's remained in her war-torn country with her 2 children as the steadfast presence rallying help for her people. Let's just see the short video that we did together. Welcome, Mrs. Zelenska. It's an extraordinary honor to have you with us today as one of the most admired women in the world. It's a real achievement that the Ukrainian flag has been raised again in Kherson. But winter is coming. What kind of new challenges are the Ukrainian people facing in the months ahead?
Well, thank you. Greetings. You're absolutely right that we're very happy to have all those new victories for the armed forces of Ukraine. And we're absolutely happy when more and more of our settlements are being deoccupied with flags raised on top. But of course, there's concerns in terms of what we see in these deoccupied territories of Ukraine, because unfortunately, we have this utter humanitarian catastrophe in those areas. And the winter is coming, the cold temperatures are coming, and in those regions where most of the buildings are destroyed with no electricity supplies, now for the people it will be a significant concern how to survive the winter. And unfortunately, in some of those regions, people still live and they're not willing to go away, to leave their houses. Either they were not persuaded. Still, we need to offer them with support and assistance. And I can tell you about my foundation, and my foundation, the one that I've established just recently, it is designed to primarily offer humanitarian support to people like this. We making sure that these people would be receiving some of the items that would be necessary for them to preserve the heat. We're talking about diesel generators, sleeping bags, different heaters, gas heaters.
It's extraordinary the amount that you have to do and how excellent it is that the foundation has been launched. I also wanted to ask about how you and your family are doing. You have 2 children, aged 18 and 9. What, do they get to see their father at all? And do they have any real kind of freedom to live normal lives in a time of such darkness?
You're absolutely right. These are very difficult, harsh, dark times. And unfortunately, they don't have a chance to spend a lot of time with their father, just some seldom, very seldom meetings. And we don't have a lot of time simply to have a dinner in a family circle. And this is very difficult for us. This is something that we're missing so much. And this is something that we would really like to do after the victory. And we would like to, stay together. But, all the Ukrainians they live in this with the thinking of a victory, and this is the same with the children, and it doesn't matter whether it's the presidential family or an average citizen's family. Every child is waiting for the victory, just as adults. So it's hard to say or to differentiate the emotional condition of our family from the others. We're all waiting, we're all holding on, and that's the main word, the main phrase you can hear from us. When anyone is asking how are you, we're saying we're holding.
We're holding on. You're holding on. The incredible thing is that you have become really the face of motherhood at a time of war. And I was heartbroken when I watched a Christian Amanpour report the other night on CNN. It was in a shelter in which there were therapists there because children who'd been told to keep quiet because, for safety reasons during air raids, etc., now were left unable to speak. They were so traumatized. And I guess my question is, how are you going to help the kids who've had such mental traumas?
There's already several projects under this program that are dedicated specifically for children. I can give you several examples. There's this project of a children psychological rehabilitation camp. We've had already one of this camp. There were children from the categories you've mentioned. These are the children that have suffered a lot mentally as the result of the war. These are the children who saw their parents being killed. There was a boy, there is a boy, in fact, he was burying his own mother at the yard behind the house. There were like girls having their relatives being killed. So there were 30 children with very significant issues who so they've received this month of psychological rehabilitation in Spain, and we are extremely satisfied with the results. I mean, these are the children who refused to eat, who couldn't sleep, who couldn't, talk to people around, who lost their, social standing, and still they received this level of support that inspired them to live on, and they returned as different children. That is why I have very high hopes and very high efforts in order to have the second camp running, and we want to scale up this project.
So with your foundation now, what are your first goals now, the urgent goals? We really want to hear what we can all do, essentially, to help those goals.
I have three major directions that I take care of. First of all is the humanitarian support and assistance. This is what I've mentioned in the very beginning of this interview, because there's a lot of people in need for support. They also need some of the emergent commodities for them to survive. Then I also took care of different orphanages and also special families with 10 or more children, and they need furniture, clothing, some ordinary things that would help them to survive the winter. And that is why over the past month of this existence of the foundation, we have offered help to 12 houses like that in the Kiev Oblast. And the next week, the foundation, the personnel of the foundation, that will go to Odessa region. The second direction is the education. Unfortunately, over 300 school buildings were destroyed in Ukraine. Much more have been damaged. Restored to normal life, our children need schools, and recovery of the school buildings, rebuilding of these school buildings for the children to be able to go there physically. That's one of the directions for my work. I would really like to, well, at least partially cover this need, because currently only third of Ukrainian schools is working under a certain agenda, and 2/3 of the schools there are they working in a mixed format or in the online format. And for the people to return normally to their houses, they also need hospitals. And we have regions where all the hospitals are being destroyed completely, where people are absolutely deprived of the possibility to get medical support. It's a difficult issue when several thousands of people don't have an access to medical support. So that's one of the directions for my work.
So if you have one message to the people at our Washington Post live gathering today in this room, what would your message be to people gathered here?
To the audience, to those people who are currently watching us, right?
These days, I often hear the words Ukraine fatigue. And it's not right. It is really hard to say, but you can imagine what fatigue Ukrainians have. We are not only for us, we are fighting for you also. So I think we need not only respect, we need huge support. And really appreciate all the support we achieve from all the countries. We see it and we feel it, and we are really thankful.